Healthcare is too expensive. Employers are offsetting costs onto their employees. Who will make health benefits affordable for hard-working Americans and their families?
You will! This is the Empowering Plans Podcast, a show dedicated to helping you once again emphasize the benefits in your benefit plan. Now prepare to learn,
Plan,
save,
and protect with the Phia Group.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Empowering Plans podcast with the Phia Group. With me is Corey Crigger. Corey, just in case someone walked in here unintentionally and they have no idea where they are, you're wearing the t-shirt. Everybody will definitely know now where they are today and to whom they are listening. We are two of the Phia Group's attorneys. We're very excited to be here today because I got to tell you, it was a last second thing. Matt Payton, our social media and marketing branding guy, reaches out and says, Corey, Ron, don't forget you got to do a podcast. And we forgot that we had to do a podcast. So I say to Corey, Corey, do we have some deep, meaningful, regulatory, legal topic to discuss? And he goes, no, Ron, it's the summer. I'm tapped out. I said, me too. I said, you know what we should do? Let's get real. Let's get real with the people. Let's talk about some of the things that people don't really want to talk about, right? The seedy underbelly of the health benefits industry, right? Let's talk about some of the questions that have come in that are maybe a little revealing about some of the thought processes or philosophies that are out there. And maybe, Corey, we could make some people feel a little bit better about themselves when they realize they're not the only ones thinking these things. And honestly, some of these questions aren't as bad as you think. And I don't know about you, Corey. You ready to just dive in and get real?
Yeah, Ron, I think it's sometimes you just have to listen to the intrusive thoughts and you have to get them out and you have to, sunshine is the best disinfectant. So sometimes you might be sitting over there at your TPA or at your group health plan, and you might have an idea that you don't really want to say out loud, but it piques your curiosity. Well, you know what? Ron and I are here to kind of air those out. We're going to talk about them. That way you don't have to bring shame upon yourself by, having this thought in the workplace, and we can get right into it. And luckily, Ron, it's not like there's anything major going on in the world in general today, or at any point in this week. So I think it's really just a great time to kick it and keep it contained in cost containment. What else would we really talk about, even if we wanted to, right?
It's early summer. There's nothing going on. Let's kick
right.
back, relax, and talk benefits. The first sort of, I'm going to tell two stories, all right? And these are two true stories, and they illustrate sort of that first intrusive thought, Corey. I was at a conference recently, and I was up on stage, and I started to talk a little bit about how so many people, they get their health benefits through a self-funded health benefit plan. All right. I know it's something more than half. I think it was like 60-70% of people have it through their employer, and the vast majority of those are self-funded benefit plans. And we know that the number is growing. So if you pull a random person off the street and you look at their health benefits, there's a better than good chance that they have a self-funded benefit plan. And yet, none of them know that they have a self-funded plan. They don't even know what self-funding is. And the reason I bring this up is because, we at the Phia Group, we talk all the time on stage, podcast, webinars about our cost containment tools, the things we do with our own plan, how well our plan is functioning. Oh, no contributions, free coverage for people 5 years. Oh, our plan is the best. We save so much money. Do it like us. And people will call and they'll ask. Brokers, TPAs, employers, vendors, they call and they say, what are you guys doing? How do you do it? And I must have spent probably 45 minutes to an hour just going through every single thing we do for our plan that makes it function the way it does. And at the end, the person to whom I was speaking, they say, yeah, but Ron, all this healthcare consumerism, trying to educate the members, get them to think twice, get them to think about how the plan money is being spent. Why would they care? What incentive is there? Why should they care about what the insurance company is spending its money on? That's what he asks me. And I say, shame on me. I went into this conversation assuming it's a self-funded plan. He says, it is a self-funded plan. And I do this double take and I say, wait, what do you mean? Why would the people care what the insurance company is spending its money on? But at the same time, you're saying it's self-funded. There is no insurance company. There is no insurance money. It's the plan's money. It's the employee's money. You're literally telling people how to save their own money. And he says, yeah. But this employer doesn't want their employees to know that they're self-funded. This employer doesn't want them to know what self-funding is. And this cuts, I think, to one of the first major issues, Corey, is that we come into these conversations talking about all these different things you can do to contain costs, to make these plans run better. And it's ultimately sabotaged by this psychological hurdle that people can't get over. And, full credit to the big insurance carriers. They've done such a good job branding and marketing that employers want to tell their employee, oh, we've got fill in the blank, right? Blue Cross, Aetna, Cigna. And kudos to them. They've built such brand recognition and are so affiliated or people assume quality that these employers, they want the employee to think that the network that they use is the insurance. And they don't want them to know they're self-funded. But that right there basically eliminates any opportunity you have to influence plan member behavior, to educate them about the plan and how to contain costs. And this attitude of why should I care? It's someone else's money. It infiltrates a lot of our industry because it's not just the plan members, right? The other conversation I had was with a stop-loss carrier. And they were getting upset that their policyholders, these plans, don't do enough to contain costs. And I basically said to my friend at the carrier, I said, why would they? You're asking them to incur costs and put in this effort. But if the claims are ultimately going to exceed their deductible and get kicked to you, the stop loss carrier, and you're going to have to reimburse, what's in it for them? What are you doing to teach them about the benefits of certain behaviors, the incentives tied to certain behavior? They should just know. They should just know. We'll offer better rates next year. I'm like, how do you know they're even going to come back and renew with you? Maybe they'll go shop, pick up another carrier. They're only looking at what's happening right now. And so whether we're talking about employers communicating with employees, brokers and TPAs communicating with plan administrators, stop loss carriers talking to plans, we need to educate people how their behavior right now impacts them and not be afraid of having these candid, honest conversations about the way these plans are structured. So that's the first thing I wanted to cover right there, Corey. I don't know if you've encountered anything like that where this desire to sort of hide it or pass something around or keep it in the closet has ultimately prevented you from really turning the key and fixing a major issue.
Yeah, a couple things I'd like to point out there, Ron, and I think that there's great points there. At the risk of sounding like a corporate shill, wearing my care empowered t-shirt on the Empowering Plans podcast on company time, I will have to say that the Phia Group does a really great job of getting buy-in from its employee base on the incentive plan and the self-funded structure that it is set up. I am blessed enough to be able to be on the health plan with no contributions because I have been an employee for over 5 years. I've also taken advantage of our Doppers and WIPes program with 3 of our 4 children. And the only reason it's not 4 out of 4 is my oldest was born before I was hired in and I came into Phia.
Dark days.
They were dark days. And this is the point here, Ron. I worked in the industry before I came to Phia for a large subrogation vendor. I knew about self-funding, and that company was about cost containment and self-funding, but it wasn't a core tenet of what the company was founded on, right? It was a business that sprang up around an industry that made money. The difference between that company and Phia, where we are at now, is that we do have a true mission-led company. We do want to make health care more affordable. We want people to get high-quality health care, and we also want to contain costs and run a business. So we put a lot of our quote unquote money where our mouth is, and we incentivize and we take the time and we dig up our sleeves and we educate our employer base. And we say, hey, this is your money. You're contributing to it. If you audit your EOBs and find a mistake, you can get a cut of that back. If you take the time to meet with your spouse and talk about where you're going to deliver your child, and you go to the highest quality, lowest cost facility in your area, you're going to get this $300 a month for diapers and wipes. If you buy in, employee, and believe in this, you get a benefit, and we all get to save. And I don't understand the thought process, Ron, of hiding self-funding from anyone, because at the end of the day, if the self-funded pool is not managed, if you are not a good steward of these funds, then you're going to be out of luck when you need it. And your employees are going to be out of luck if they, God forbid, have a cancer diagnosis or a stroke or a car accident or something unexpected comes out of nowhere, and they haven't been frugal, and none of the employees have been frugal because they don't understand the funding mechanism, and there's no funds to pay the claims. Now what are we going to do? So that's an interesting mindset in the industry, and one that I think has to be rooted out. But I think that's great conversations and frank conversations. And it's crazy that we've been doing this long, and people still are either afraid of the word self-funding, like it's a 4-letter word, or they're uneducated, or they don't care. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Part of me thinks that, and this is just based on things that have been said to me in the past, is that a lot of employers are concerned that they don't want the employees to know that the employer has any hand in determining what's covered, what's excluded. They like having the big bad insurance carrier as a scapegoat. But ultimately, if you think about it, two things. One, right, even if you have traditional insurance and you're paying a premium, your behavior and failure to save, failure to think twice, failure to shop around, ultimately will result in your premiums increasing anyway, even if you didn't have a self-funded plan. So educating people on being a healthcare consumer benefits them self-funded or traditional fully funded insurance, number one. Number two, honestly, if you're self-funded, there are enough entities out there, including the Phia group, that can step in and provide guidance, step in and insert themselves between you and the decision-making process, so that as an employer, you can still say to those employees, yes, we're still self-funded, but I, as your employer, am not unilaterally making all the coverage decisions. There are enough objective third-party experts out there that are guiding us, helping us make determinations, reviewing appeals, that you can rest assured your claims are being handled appropriately. Maybe, if you look at the media today, maybe you could even say more appropriately than in a traditional insurance setting, because as you know, many of the traditional carriers that we all know the names are getting dragged through the mud because of their claims processing, decision making, and appeal handling, right? Oh, deny first, right? I mean, to the point that it's creating some violence, but certainly a lot of bad press. So I think the days as an employer of saying, if I tell my employees I've got XYZ insurance and they'll be happy, those days may be past, because there's a lot of bad feelings, negative feelings towards those carriers, where maybe saying to your employees, hey, look, I'm taking your benefits out of the hands of some heartless third party, and I'm bringing it back in. And together, we'll care for you and your family. The people who care about your health and well-being will now be the ones that make your benefit decisions. It's a positive message, and it leads to the conversation about cost containment. The other thing I want to say real quick, Corey, has to do with being a fiduciary. And then I'm going to kick it back to you. I know you've got a couple items you want to cover. Nobody wants to say it, but I'm going to say it. Being a fiduciary sometimes means you need to be a jerk. A jerk. It ties into subrogation, right? The good of the many over the good of the few. Here I have one person who was in a car wreck. They've suffered terrible losses. I'm patting them on the back. I'm saying, I'm really sorry that happened to you. When you recover some money from the responsible third party, don't forget to give me a share. Don't forget to reimburse the plan for what it paid on your medical bills. Objectively, I sound like the bad guy in that movie, right? But when you step back and you think about it, this is what allows the benefit plan to exist. This is what ensures everyone enjoys coverage. It means being a fiduciary sometimes means putting the benefits or well-being of the many over the well-being of the few. Another area where this comes up, and I'm going to say it right now, we talk about Ozempic, we talk about GLP-1s, we talk about weight loss drugs. And the big question is, do we cover it or not as a plan? And it's funny because the conversation around GLP-1s and weight loss drugs reminds me a lot of the conversations I used to hear a decade ago about wellness plans. Does the health plan pay for a wellness program? Who is paying for that pedometer and water bottle, right? Who is tracking those steps? And in both instances, the dialogue or the unspoken dialogue is as follows. Yeah, if I help someone lose weight, if I help someone improve their cardiovascular health, long-term well-being improves. But how does that benefit me? As the employer, as the plan administrator, if I help you lose weight today, you avoid having a heart attack 15 years from now. Are you still going to be on my plan then? Or am I saving money for Medicare? Am I saving money for some other employer's plan? I'm going to pay the cost of improving your health today so that you don't suffer the costs of bad health 20 years from now when it's someone else's problem. Nobody says that when they're questioning, do I pay for this or not? But what's the ROI today for my plan? And yeah, I sound like a jerk when I put it that way, but we can phrase it differently, Corey. Is it a prudent use of plan assets to pay for that now if the savings will not be seen or recognized by that plan? Am I prudently managing the plan assets? Am I acting as a fiduciary, a prudent quality fiduciary if I pay for those things? And so I know when people say, I don't want to pay for it, it's too expensive, maybe they feel a little bit bad about it because we're all in it just to improve people's health. But as a plan administrator, you're not only managing the participants' health, you're also managing the plan's health. And sometimes I think people forget that. So that's one of those other unspoken but intrusive thoughts that I really feel we need to address these days.
Yeah, Ron, great point. I also find it funny that people act like if Medicare has to pay for something, or like that our whole national structure and economy wouldn't just crumple if Medicare just no longer existed out of the blue or went insolvent. People just don't think about that. Neither here nor there, though. Well, I mean, we don't have to get into that, but it is the largest self-funded pool that we could talk about that we all have a marketed interest in.
We don't talk about self-funded. Corey,
right.
Remember?
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but Rod, to your point, your subrogation point is great, and you hit on a lot of good things there. I'll just touch on a couple of them. The way that you laid out the subrogation problem in general was always why, when I was at my prior company and I was more involved in subro day to day, it was always super important for the speed of notice of a subrogation interest, because if you can be the first one to talk to a member or to get the messaging right of, hey, I'm so sorry, you were hurt, you never should have been hurt, can't believe you got rear-ended, you're sitting at a red light, oh my gosh, can't believe this happened to you. Hey, the same way you shouldn't have ever went to PT and you never should have had back pain to begin with, your health plan kind of feels the same way, right? We never should have had to pay any of these claims, and it's that jerk that was texting and driving and didn't slow down and just plowed into the back end of you. So when his insurance settles up, we're just going to take what we paid out, and then you can have the rest. But we shouldn't have been hurt either. And just, if you can control that narrative, it makes people view things 100% different, and it disarms like the adversarial relationship that subrogation can be, which is why, having a great company like, the investment that we've had in some of our technologies of getting records quicker and getting questionnaires out quicker and getting in investigations off the ground quicker, you get to control that narrative and you get to diffuse the situation. which that was one thing I wanted to bring up. But then the other thing that I wanted to bring up is, yeah, these weight loss drugs at high cost aren't going anywhere either. So I've noticed this last night watching TV with my wife. We were watching a show last night, commercial came on, and we're now seeing the second wave of kind of quote unquote weight loss drugs. Or this is what I'm saying. Uh, you're seeing obesity related apnea drugs hit the market now. If you've noticed, I've seen these ramp up over the last month or so. Haven't done a lot of reading on them or a lot of research on them, but it seems to me that it's just another repackaged way to sell a drug that's going to make you lose weight. The reason that you have the apnea is that you are overweight. Here is another drug that will help you lose weight and get rid of your apnea at the same time. So these new breakthrough drugs, I mean, we've been doing it since fen-phen and hydroxycut. There's always a new weight loss drug that will make everything better. Are you going to flip the bill for it or not? Or do you want to help people be healthy now? I would make the argument, Ron, who is someone who's lost quite a bit of weight. I think you've went on the same kind of journey over the last few years during COVID and everything. The short-term benefits of walking around 30 pounds lighter, I'm more effective at work. I can think more clearly. A lot of that goes with lifestyle and diet changes and things of that nature. It's not just as simple as taking a shot going on with your life, but there are tangible short-term benefits. But it's a legitimate question, right? The majority of this savings is going to be down the road. Maybe I shouldn't pay $1,000 a pop for Wegovy for this person, even though they're asking for it, and it makes you ask some tough questions.
It's interesting because I feel like being a plan administrator, sometimes it means detaching yourself from the emotional side of things and performing that cost benefit analysis with the well-being of the plan in mind. But it also means, to your point, if you're going to do a cost benefit analysis, you need to understand all of the costs and all of the benefits so that it's an accurate calculation. And I would say many of the organizations making these decisions maybe don't have all of that information, which results in an inaccurate calculation. And that's why it's important. And again, I don't mean to sort of toot any horns or ring any bells, but it's important to have trusted third-party advisors, consultants that you can bounce things off of and see if maybe they've thought of something you didn't think of that can help make that calculation just a little bit more accurate. So, Corey, with the last few minutes, I don't know if there's any burning topics or issues you wanted to cover that maybe you've been hearing about.
Ron, the one thing that I would always say about you is you are a cynic. And so you've kind of talked about a couple things that were kind of on the cynical side. And of course, me being the nice, cuddly, happy-go-lucky, eternal glass half full optimist I am, I want to give some reassurance to the people out there. And I'm gonna just speak to a thought that I know you're having. If you are at a TPA, if you are at a health plan, if you are a broker, let me just go ahead and say, I know that you are concerned about what's going on with your No Surprise Act claims, and you are not alone in this journey of the No Surprise Act, right? We see so many questions where people just feel like they're at the end of their rope. They have to be the only ones doing this incorrectly. Oh my gosh, how do we manage these volumes? How in the world do we get claims logged into this federal system? It is clunky. These IDR entities don't follow timelines. I'm losing track of these because they're going on for 18 months when they're supposed to be done in 90 days. We've heard it. We've seen it all. And it's okay that you're there. But don't stay in that state, and reach out and find a partner or a vendor that can help you organize this and get it in line. You're not alone, but there are solutions out there that can help and can help streamline it. And then I would just piggyback that off right here at closing, Ron, with just one short little funny story. You do need to comply with the No Surprise Act. You also need to comply with all federal regulation. I was with a client the other day on a phone call, and it was kind of at the end of the call, and we were joking around, and we'd cover all the substance stuff. So I'm not going to say that he or she was 100% serious, but the statement did come from their mouth that, well, now that the Trump administration's here, I don't need to follow any of these regulations anyway, right? And I would say that that's probably a more heavy risk stance to take. I would advise completely against that and say that just because an administration has different priorities and enforcement priorities within the administration doesn't mean that you just get to say, well, this is never going to be enforced anyway. Trump didn't like this. Biden didn't like this. He's not going to enforce it. Let's just do whatever we want to do. We want to be better than that. We want to be a little bit more. We want to think a little bit more critically. We want to comply with federal law. We want to make sure that we're doing everything that we can to run a successful plan, and we don't just want to flagrantly disregard things because a midterm or a presidential election went one way or the other. So it's okay to feel like that the No Surprise Act is overwhelming. Not okay to say I'm not going to comply with federal regulations because the administration changed. I would just leave us with that sage advice there, Ron.
So it's fair to say that you paid your taxes this year.
Do you have a warrant? I mean,
Corey, it feels good to say all of these things out loud. It helps to know that you're not alone. It helps to know that these intrusive thoughts are not unique to you. You're not a bad person. We're all having the same conversations. So listen, I can't believe it. Our time is up. Pat the Man Santos, our podcast producer, has got places to be, things to do, so we can't keep him here any longer. So we're going to go ahead and call it a wrap. On behalf of myself, Corey, Pat, the entirety of the Phia Group and industry, thank you for joining us once again for another Phia Group Empowering Plans podcast. Be well. Talk soon.